decided it, should I say? Oh my goodness.
And it's Instagram Live. I mean, you know, you'd think it would be so straightforward. So it takes sort of talk to the audience, concentrate on what's happening with the chat. You know, it's fun. So well done. We're
here. Oh, apologies everyone for all that palaver. But thank you so much for joining me, Tanya. How are you?
Got my cuppa. I'm just about the sunshine this morning. Makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Gorgeous. And I'm rocking the yellow today as well. I feel quite springy. So
in your shed?
I'm in my she shed. I'm hopefully trying to hide from the boys for 20 minutes. I'm just hoping they don't decide to suddenly fly in, but we'll just go with it, whatever happens.
We will go with it. It's like with me with the 2 Ridgebacks, you know, I never know when a delivery person's going to arrive, and then it's like Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. Was coming up, and I did this quite routinely and found it so helpful. There was so much that was coming up that I didn't actually realise perhaps I'd connected so much with the lecture. So much was relatable to like home life, especially parenting, and everything to do with emotions, mental health experiences. All of that sort of came together. And then I also came across free writing, which is basically just sitting down and just writing non-stop for a certain amount of time, and whatever comes up, you're just letting it out. There's no thinking there. It's just everything's just sort of spilling out on the page. And this was such a turning point for me, because I realized that as I was writing, without even thinking about what was coming out, it was reaching into parts of my subconscious, and things that I wasn't aware of were coming out through the page. And it was so beneficial. I was using it, and I still use it now when moments I feel stuck with something or something I can't quite put my finger on. I will just sit and just let whatever is in there come out, and it's really quite interesting what does come up sometimes. And then in June last year, literally weeks after finishing my degree at university, was diagnosed with invasive lobular breast cancer. Who knew there was more than one type of breast cancer, but there is. And things quickly kind of escalated from there, really. So found a lump, had it checked, had a biopsy. It went from talks of whether to have a lumpectomy, where they just removed the lump, or whether to have a full mastectomy, to then that decision being taken out of my hands because it had to be a full mastectomy. It had spread into my lymph nodes. Surgery was in August, and the histology from the surgery revealed that it was a grade 3 aggressive. So everything kind of happened so fast, and I knew that the one thing that would help me would be just get to the page, just let it out, put it all onto the paper. And I couldn't. I just couldn't get it out. I just couldn't write about it. It's one thing that I just couldn't write about. And yeah, I knew that it was the one thing that would really help me to process and come to terms with everything that was going on.
Because it's important to mention here, isn't it, that you were quite an avid writer. You've got a plan to write your own memoir. So have this situation happen to you, and I think it's quite familiar, isn't it, once people have been given a certain diagnosis, whether it's cancer or something else, this really distinctive creative block. Do you want to elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, I think I mean, from sort of going through the program with you, it's made me look back and see actually what it was probably that was blocking me. But I think it was this sense of acknowledgement, actually putting things down on paper in black and white and seeing it, and I guess having thoughts in your head and words written on paper or saying them out loud makes them seem bigger and more real, and perhaps I just wasn't quite ready for that at the point. But then, yeah, I mean, I came across Rage on a Page. What an amazing title. I was just like, yes. Because I knew that I needed some help with this. I knew that it was the way forward and it was what was going to help me, but I needed some help with, and direction, I guess, and support with actually how to go about it. And you know, the whole program was not about learning to write about my cancer. It was learning to acknowledge and express the emotions and the thoughts that were there, that were going off inside, because I kind of feel like when things are inside, they're just escalating, they're spinning around, getting bigger, and it's physically releasing to just be able to write with a pen and just let the, you know, the words flow out onto the page. It's really cathartic and it really feels like a physical release. But the other thing that I noticed was that when I'd actually got my thoughts and feelings and fears and everything down on paper, they weren't actually as big and scary as they seemed when they were spinning round in my head. And there were so many times that things would come out, and you know, every week after our weekly sessions, I felt so much better, so much lighter. You know, it's not always an easy journey, but it definitely like helps just to lighten it and help me to move forward. And you know, I'm still now, after the course, like this is part of my daily routine now. Like I will just, first thing in the morning is my time when I just sit down before I've looked at my phone or thought about the rest of the day, just literally just sit and write and get a few words out. And I just wanted to share just a quick journal entry that I wrote on Thursday, and how journaling is still helping me now with everything. So I had my last chemotherapy session on Wednesday. Very exciting. But it's really odd because actually on the day, like I've been dreaming of this day and ringing that bell for almost 6 months. And I've had like a week of just been so excited and so happy for this day coming, that when the day came, like Wednesday morning, I just was a bundle of nerves. I was fidgety, my chest was tight, I was just so anxious. I don't know why, it was so bizarre. And then afterwards I just felt so sad, and I expected to have this huge like rush of relief and excitement, and it just didn't happen. So Thursday morning, as soon as I got up, I just came down. I thought, I'm just gonna, you know, let it out, whatever's going off, because I thought, although my expectation was to be feeling happy and excited, the reality is that that's not what I'm feeling, and that's okay. I just need to sort of express what it is. So I noticed that when I started writing, that I remembered I met a couple of people when I was in there that had very different experiences and diagnoses to me, and they were facing a very, very difficult and very harsh reality. And I think part of me was thinking, how could I be happy and excited that I finished when there's people out there that, you know, are dealing with so much more and in such a difficult position. And I thought that perhaps maybe I was, you know, fast forwarded into, you know, a potential future reality, and imagining what it was like, or would be like to be in that position. And just from writing that and seeing it written down, I noticed that there's two key words there: potential and imagined. Like, this is not my reality, and it's not right now. And for me to acknowledge that, and it made me, as I often do with my journals, I actually managed to turn things sort of into more positive at the end and try and come up with some problem solving. So the end of my journal on Thursday morning, I thought, you know, this isn't serving them, and it's not serving me to be feeling this this heaviness and this sadness. So I started to think of how I could move forward more positively, and I wrote down a few little things that I'm going to start doing. But the one thing is gratitude. I'm going to start, I used to do it and I don't know why I stopped, but I'm going to start doing a little gratitude list every evening, just 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. And the trick with gratitude is to actually really feel what you're grateful for when you remember what it is that day, because that's what's going to bring the changes and, you know, bring the benefits to the emotional well-being, is actually feeling what it's like to actually hold that sense of gratitude, and even for the smallest of things every day. So yeah, I mean, thank you to you, Tanya, for helping me through these, you know, past few months, and for giving me this amazing tool that's, I know, is just part of my life now. So I'm going to hand the reins over to you and let you have a little chat about yeah, your story and ease retreats and, you know, therapeutic journaling.
Oh, thank you. But honestly, it's a real privilege, you know, to be in the company of women like you. And I suppose, you know, what I'm offering, what I'm providing is a sense of hope, a platform and a space to give others a sense of belonging and to find their purpose in life, no matter what stage in life they're at. Because as you know, in the community that we have and still have, is that such a broad spectrum of experiences, of ages, of backgrounds, and wishes, I suppose, you know, what every woman is trying to identify about herself, whether she wants to improve her self-esteem, whether she's trying to unlock that creativity that might be blocked due to whatever, you know, the challenges or traumas that she's going through. So I feel like I'm the vessel, you know. I've yeah, this is definitely my North Star. This is definitely my calling. I've never been so certain about a mission in life ever. I've had quite a roller coaster of a life myself, and I think now, looking back, you know, I went through what I went through so that I could understand, I could empathize, and when it was the thing that I found that was so nourishing for myself, and thought, gosh, if it's done this for me, how many other women can it help? And it just clicked into place. You know, I just understandably I'd had retreats happening 2017, and the pandemic, you know, it brought me down to earth with a big bang. You know, it was outdoor events and meeting people face to face just was put on pause. So I had to really, you know, do a lot of soul searching, because you know, I'd gone through 2 divorces. I'd had to sacrificing my children 50% of the time. I'd gone through bankruptcy in the recession in 2008, just for a mere 15 grand that you could put on your Visa card. You know, I was on the verge of homelessness. So I'd gone through quite a lot of probably what I'd call mini traumas, but kind of just gone, oh, it's life, you know, I'll just get on with it. But I think the pandemic really was like, you know, everybody's going through something similar. And really, whatever I was going through wasn't touching the surface. So I kind of reignited my diaries. You know, I'd been, as a youngster, writing, but not really believing in my creative skill sets. And that's, you know, what I preach about so often now. If I had a pound for every woman that says, I don't know how to journal, I can't write, who am I to have the luxury of sitting with pen and paper for 10 minutes or an hour a day, you know? And it's like, really? I'm like, now on the flip side of journaling should be considered a non-negotiable daily ritual. As much as we dedicate the time and effort into brushing our teeth once, twice, 3 times a day, because we are looking after our one and important body, you know, that physically we kind of go and do exercise, we'll may consider yoga, we try and eat healthily, and we drink as much water as we can. But for our mental health, it's almost like, oh, right, well, maybe I need a therapist, or, you know, I'll just suppress whatever I'm going through, because, you know, who am I to be looking for support and help? Because, you know, I'm worried that I've got an element of anxiety or depression, the disease that I'm going through, people are suffering far worse than I am. And we kind of, we don't consider that, yes, there are so many things going on in the world. There's so many worse elements, from war zones to famine. But, it's like that whole, you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. And I'm just like, everybody has access to pen and paper. And I think this stuff should be taught in school. Should be able to have this dialogue with ourselves on the page and try and understand, why we think the way we think. In one of the sessions that we did was fascinating, wasn't it? We had an emotional intelligence coach called Natasha Albia come and talk to us about body scanning, finding that certain emotions we think are the emotion and actually can be something totally different. Of course, I've called it Rage on a Page, and it's a title. It means so much more than expressing rage on a piece of paper. It's identifying why we feel frustrated, why we suppress our emotions, why we may be angry, why we isolate ourselves, why we are a people pleaser, not attending to our own worries and sorrows and emotions. And so with Natasha, she made us really sit with, identifying what we are really feeling, where rage can be something that we identify with, or anger, but actually when we look deeper into it, it's usually something like an emotion like fear coming out in a totally different way. So I am probably coming across as quite a preacher, because I'm just like, if I get to 80, I've still not achieved what I'm setting out to achieve, with the amount of work I myself have to learn, how I can fine-tune the message so that women like us don't look at me with cross-eyed going, what are you on about? This has been around for centuries. Writing as a cathartic medium. It's just that I think the world of digital has kind of hoovered us up and created the human beings that sometimes we don't really identify with ourselves. And then children who know no different but to interact and communicate with a digital device. It really scares this caricature of images where they've got this baby in the womb and they're growing an iPhone into their it's, and then when a couple who are just literally on their phone and the child in between them just like looking so lost and confused because they're not having any attention or love. And I mean, we're all guilty of it, but I have a mission, and it is to try and encourage as many people, particularly women, to journal every day. And my message isn't any more complicated than that. When they come and talk to me, or they'll, maybe tap into people like yourselves and understand how beneficial it's been for both health and well-being, that they will maybe go, it's not as complicated or as scary or as, I speak to a lot of GPs, a lot of medics. I'm the Lifestyle Medicine Forum here in Wales. And I've had, 50 to 100 medics question me about how can I benefit, not only helping my patients, but myself as a because, they're all stressed, they're all frustrated, and we know what's happening with the NHS now. So it needs to be a ripple effect. I am just one of many people, and I need more brand ambassadors, more people like yourself going, honestly, if all you can do, because I challenge people, don't I, and say, you're telling me you've got no time. Asking is that you take your journal with you everywhere, just look at it, open it. But then when you do, because I want to set you a challenge of maybe 7 days, 30 days, just write one word, no more, not a sentence. Then come back to me and tell me you haven't got time to journal.
Do you know, that was such a game changer for me, because I think I had in my head what journaling was. I think because a lot of us do, and it had to be, you know, neat writing. It had to not just make sense, but sound really creative. And actually, no, it can be so messy, and it's so nice just to let go and just, it doesn't matter if it makes sense. But that one word, like, I can manage one word every day, and that one word is just in itself allows me to recognize actually something that I'm feeling that day. And it often leads into more words, like 9 times out of 10, one word leads into more. But I think as well, it's about, once we can acknowledge the emotion that we're feeling, that's when we can actually work through it and move past it. And this is just one way that we can do that and acknowledge it. And I mean, emotions are, you know, all the same, no matter what you're dealing with, experience, whether you think it's quite minor or whether you think it's like the biggest thing ever for anyone to be facing. It doesn't matter, you know, emotions are emotions, and we all feel them. And something like this is just so powerful. It's so brilliant.
Great to have been able to learn the different techniques and the top tips and the skills with a group of like-minded. You know, it's thing with regard to my ethos for the business is that you arrive as strangers and you leave as such good friends. I mean, you know, like the program, everybody was like, right, what happens now? Okay. So, you know, between us all, we're starting to build this sort of community of, I suppose, rages.
We're rages.
Yeah, it's just because I think from the personal journaling prompts for, you know, sharing the, you know, you get so frustrated with life, and it's, we're not going to be perfectionists, you know, it's a life learning practice. And as we go along, we're supporting one another. And it's just, it shows how much of a sisterhood we need.
Yeah.
Crying and, you know, support. So yeah, I'm excited because you know, there's nothing more nourishing, I don't think, than when you found something that you truly believe in, and you know that not only fills your cup but can help, you know, fill other people's cup. Wholeheartedness stuff. It's not gimmick. It's not going away. And I mean, if you're a lover of stationery as well, I mean, it's just such a great excuse to go, oh, yeah, sorry, I've got another delivery of another fountain pen for a journal. I mean, you know, sorry, but
simple pleasures.
I fancy a brand new dress or a pair of shoes. It's now usually a brand new journal, and that's about being part of the community, is that, you know, I've got some great partnerships with some amazing brands. We had Tom, who's the founder of Tom's Studio, not long ago, and he's so passionate about being environmentally friendly with using certain fountain pens, because, you know, the Bic Biro was such a genius invention, but they get, you know, the amount of plastic that's going into the world. And I never thought of it that way, because a lot of brands are using pens as marketing tools. And I was like, you know, give me a fountain pen any day and give me an hour to talk about why you should use a fountain pen. That's another story. But yeah, it was fascinating to see how Tom is like trying to fine tune how even the ink cartridges are not plastic. So amazing filter that draws ink up. It's almost like blotting paper, but he's created this really thick foam. You know, no, that's not the right language. But it's almost hypnotherapy, just watching the ink soak up the pen. And it's like, oh my goodness, I'm not only doing good for my mental health, I'm doing good for the planet. You know, don't get me started on it. I'm like, there is no reason why anybody should not be journaling.
Might be another Instagram live one day.
But yeah, I mean, what we want to do, isn't it? We want, because you've got you've done in psychotherapy and counseling, so you want to build up on building your own audience and practicing on Instagram live and stuff like that. But I think also you know, talking about cancer, particularly breast cancer, even down to the nitty-gritty of go about checking ourselves, because I guarantee, you know, we see the media, we see the messages, our doctor surgeries and our nurses are telling us, are we checking? But do you know how to check properly? And what is, you know, because our breasts are so lumpy anyway. And I you know, where I'm like, oh, I know I should be checking, but I'm too scared. You know, that
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I bury my head in the
Yeah.
sand, and I'm 40 and I know I should be checking. So if I'm like that, I know there'll be 100 other women. And I think if you can just talk us through what happened with you, you know, what stage did you go to next? Was it like a week's wait? Did you, you know, all these little things that I think people skim over.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I've got breast cancer. Yeah, but what, how, you know? And were you alone? And were you taught as a child? Was it your GP that educated you? There's so many, I think, moments and information and statistics that get thrown at us and we feel overwhelmed. And then the really important stuff that I just want to ask you as a friend, please can you tell me, because I'm really in the dark.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, I used to check regularly. So I was listening to a podcast and I heard a girl talking about being diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was in her early 20s, and she created this charity called Copper. So after listening to her story, I went and looked at this charity, and since then it's really inspired me how important it is to check. And this was quite a few years ago. So I didn't have a set routine. I wasn't very rigid with checking same time every week or whatever, but I did used to check very regularly. And I just noticed this lump one day. And it's happened before. I found a lump a couple of years ago, had it checked, and it was nothing. And I was kind of expecting it to be the same. So I found it, and I was like, the next day I was like, yeah, it's definitely there. There's definitely a lump. It's bank holiday weekend, typical. So the following week, Tuesday, when the doctors were open again, I made an appointment, and they were fantastic. I got in straight away. She booked me a check at the hospital there and then. So within a week, I was in the hospital having the check. And then within a week again, I was getting the diagnosis. So it happened very quickly. And it's really hard. I think the biggest thing really is to know what's normal for you. So to just get used to, you know, looking, feeling and checking and knowing what's normal, because then you can see that actually it looks a bit different or feels a bit different, or there's some texture or some changes there that weren't there before. And I think sometimes we are so scared of thinking about the what ifs that it stops us from actually, doing what we need to do.
Element of the journaling that we talk about is like the bullet journaling, but the tracking. So just being ruthless with going today, it's just a little tick or a little emoji. People can use stickers. You know, how you're feeling in yourself, you know, what have you eaten, what's your quality of sleep like? And if you are doing regular breast checks, even if it's once weekly, write it down. And so that when you get to the doctor's appointment, you can go, look, these are the changes that have been happening over the past few months. I mean, there is nothing wrong with that. And I think if we get into practice of going, you know, gosh, I really, you know, I gave up coffee, or, you know, I'm a bit of a sugar addict and I've reduced that. It's just, it doesn't have to be regarding cancer. It could be that you've got tummy problems or IBS. And, you know, as we're getting older as well and overwhelmed with so much information, that it's really difficult to remember. Can you remember what your diet was like for the
Can't remember anything. I can't remember much from yesterday, let alone anything else.
All the stuff, you know, all the medicine that you're taking. So, I mean, it's like a little Bible, I think, the journal. You know, it's not just you doing morning pages. It becomes a tool for well-being. But I'm conscious of time and everything. But I think it'd be great for us to jump on and do more lives.
Yeah, definitely.
We've probably got quite a lot of topics and themes that we could really fine tune on it. But anyways, it's been a pleasure.
Great chatting to you. Thanks,
Tanya.
At
the end of this, remember to save it, because then you can on your grid and share.
Yes, definitely. that would be great. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that has joined, or hopefully will be watching this later on if I manage to save it properly. But yeah, if anyone wants to ask any questions, to reach out with, you know, comments or anything, then, you know, obviously don't hesitate to contact either me or Tanya. We're about, and yeah, I would love to hear from you. So thanks again, Tan. I will speak to you soon.
Always love a virtual cuppa.
Yeah, absolutely. Take care. See you soon.